Hello there. Thank you for dropping by, Mr. Eglin. Nice to see you. I apologise if... can you let me know if the fan is too loud? It's really hot this evening, as I'm sure you're aware. Also, I should turn the volume down on my own stream so I don't terrify myself with my own voice. So, how's your day been? Have you, good? Glad to see it's not too loud. A couple more people coming in, that's good to see. Welcome. This is the first time I've ever done a live stream. It's just going to be my chubby little hands. Yeah, I thought, we could just have a chat and while I got some of this trim done, and I'll maybe do some building later. Hi, Cyan, nice to see you. Thank you very much. So, how's everyone's week been? Mine's been busy and painful. I've been enjoying some really lovely toothache the last couple of days. And I've just popped 2 more codeine, so I'm either going to be fine, or you guys are about to have the most psychedelic, whacked out mong job of a live stream. Let's roll those dice. So yeah, I'm just painting some Howling Griffins at the moment, which is a test. I'm doing a test of paints from TT Combat, because I'll be doing a proper review of these shortly. Which is not a paid review, I paid for them myself. Matthew, hi. What am I using? These are Pro Art Series 60. They come from, or I get them from a company called ABC Brushes. ABC Brushes, they're a reseller as far as I'm aware. They're really cheap. They sell them in packs of like 5, and they're about 2 or 3 quid. They're really, really cheap. They're synthetic brushes, but I like them because I can use them, throw them away. I haven't broken the bank, This is a Series 2 from Broken Toad, and you can see that I've really used the hell out of this. But the set of 3 of these brushes is, I think it's about £40, which when you're on a budget like I usually am, I just can't afford. So, hey, it's Trippy. What are we complaining about tonight, Trippy? Did anyone else watch Macca's latest video on how he would reform Games Workshop if he was magically given control? I've just finished watching it about maybe an hour ago or so, and I agree with like 99.9% of his things. Yeah, I think apart from trying to turn it into the Apple iPlay store, I think everything in there was pretty spot on. Was there another chapter in mind for the test, or was it always going to be Howling Griffins? Well, I wanted to do Howling Griffins. I want to do Badab War, so I thought I'd give Howling Griffins a go. As I've also got some Sons of Medusa I was working on, but these were a test for the Tamiya clear paints. and they're okay. I'm not so much a fan of this green. And then I decided I also wanted to do a Mantis Warrior. And I'm really happy with the Mantis Warrior. He's come out exactly how I wanted him to. I'm going to do an oil wash on both of them. Actually, on all three of them. And hopefully that will tie them all together. But yeah, Howling Griffins were definitely high up the list. Ever since I saw... There's a guy on Instagram called David Robotham, who you may have seen. He does some really fantastic kind of second edition style Imperial Fists. And he's actually, or he was, a regular at my local gaming club. And he did some Space Marines, which you can see on his Instagram account, called the Sons of Golgotha. And they're the exact same scheme as the Howling Griffins. But they have blue helmets, like the Blood Angel Devastators. And I think it was about maybe 4th edition, maybe 5th edition. And I saw him paint these, because we used to have a forum we'd go on for our local gaming club. And he was posting updates weekly. And I was just enthralled. The quality of his painting, the quality of the models, they were fantastic. And I never thought I could ever do a quartered scheme. And I just went, okay. I'm not going to be very neat around here. You'll see there's already going to be some bits in there that have slipped through. That's absolutely fine. They're going to get covered up with weathering anyway, so I'm not too fussed about them. But I have given this model a coat of gloss varnish. So if I did need to, I can just use a bit of water to wash that away. And a bit of scrub. Alaric, Bando, when will you do Alpha Legion and make Samaria's hiding unhappy? As soon as the new Mark III Marines come out. The new Mark III Marines, when the rumour was that it was going to be a new box set with like 40 Mark III Marines, I was going to get one of those. 3 of those. And I was going to do a load of them as Alpha Legion, because there's the cover of Ghost Warrior where they're all fighting on the gantries that I really like. And they're all wearing like Mark III and Mark II armour. But the idea is to have them fighting these guys. So it will be Ultramarines, or Proto-Nova Marines, versus the Alpha Legion. And I will be trying to do a bit more of a... what's that? It's not Lilac. Is it Lilac? Indigo. If you ever look in the old Index Astartes, you'll see that the Pre-Heresy Alpha Legion wear a more purple colour scheme. Well, Vallejo do this really cool colour shifter paint, which shifts between metallic light blue and metallic dark purple, or indigo. And it's absolutely perfect for the Alpha Legion. So I'm going to be doing like my orange Thousand Suns, I will do a metallic silver base, and then I will glaze that onto it. So as soon as this Mark III Marines come out, expect to see some of that. Nothing really, so yeah, no, I get not watching, like constantly watching negative stuff, which is why I really don't like being negative. You know, when Heresy Thursday comes out and it's always a disappointment, I'm not thrilled because I get to make a new video and be like, yeah, look at me, I'm gonna get more subs because everyone's salty. It's more like, oh great, I've got to do this again, which I really don't want to do. Like, a lot of people don't realise. They think people like Macca especially like thrive on the salt, when in reality it's exhausting. It's so miserable being like that. But don't get me wrong, you know, it's also quite cathartic to just let loose once in a while and be like, no, I've had enough. I do that a little bit too much, I think, in real life, as I'm sure anyone who knows me will attest to. But hey, the benefits of being an autismo is I can get away with it. And trains. How did I do the Mark IV knee pads? Oh, the knee pads. Yeah, okay. So these are just Mark VI legs. And all I've done is taken this bad boy, which is a £5 modelling saw, and you literally just run it across. So I usually start at the edge because I can line it up with the top of the plate. Does that focus? Yep. I can just line it up in top of the plate and I do a cut, and then I go around a bit and I do another cut. If I can get to it, I'll start on the other side as well, and then I'll have them meet in the middle. Then all I do is I get something like hobby knife, the old rusty shanker, and I just clear it out and slightly widen the gap, put a bit of a bevel in there just so it looks a bit more manufactured, not like I've just run a hobby saw across it. You know what I mean. But I've got a couple more. There's another one. So I think it's one of the easiest conversions to do to these Mark VI Marines, to just break them up a little bit, because, you know, everybody has Mark VI Marines and there's thousands of them. I also really like this guy, just because he's kind of average, boring, just walking. I like that. In fact, I think I did it for most of this squad. These guys have got the torsos from the old Death Guard Mark III upgrade kit. I ordered one from Forge World when they put them on made to order, and they turned up with the front bit there broken on one of the torsos. So they sent me another one, which also had the broken torso on it. So I've got loads of them to use. But I use them because they're nice and I like the look of them. They're very sort of technical looking. So yeah, I like these guys. Oh. There we go, I've lost my brush. Oh, welcome to Under My Desk. And I'm back. As you can see here as well, I've got all my my tank projects I'm working on that are nearly finished. I just need to finish things like the glowing and the optics, and then I'll have an autocannon, or assault cannon, sorry, Predator finished for my Imperial Fists. Quite happy with this. First time I've ever built a Bull Predator, and it's the first time I've ever built an actual Mars pattern Predator as well in 30 years of the hobby. I just never bought so many kits. Unbelievable. Where did I get to in the chat? When can you send me some epic? If you're in the Discord, mate, we'll sort it out. Don't worry. Oh, he's typing the Firehawk, Star Phantoms, and Nexus. I tried doing the Exorcists a while ago. I did some with some Filthy Primaris models. I don't know if I've got... I mean, I've got some lying around. I don't know where any of them are. But I gave up because I just really don't like Primaris Marines at all. But they did look cool with small bolters. Also, oh, it does require to use black. It's a bit touchy. Okay. Yeah, we can chat over it. That'd be cool. Havoc, hi, nice to meet you. Evening, how are you? I'm surviving. It's very hot, very muggy here. I don't know what the temperature is, but it feels like I'm currently swimming around in the stanky bits between Satan's ballsack. I've got a fan going. I've got the windows open. I'm not quite, it just here in my underwear, but it's close. Other than that, I'm in pain, but it's the weekend. How are you? Hey, it's not stealing. I share everything here equally and for free. Go out there and hobby along. Okay, let's get on. This is like the chaos trim on doing on the Black Legion and stuff. It's just so mind numbing, and because it's black over a lighter colour or two relatively transparent colours, it's like I'm just stressed all the time. I will be going over with metallics because I just wanted to get a nice dark base coat for the metallics. I'm actually quite happy with how I've managed to get the quartered scheme on there. I've not used any masking tape because I don't like using it, but it's not too bad. I need to go over and just obviously tidy it up a bit, and this area could use another coat or two of red. Yeah, the video will come out. The paints are by TT Combat. I'm very happy with them, although there is one slight problem with them, which is when you go to use them in an airbrush, this ring has a habit of falling straight into your airbrush. But you don't need it, you can just throw it away. Do I have a homebrew chapter, or are they all official ones? Not for a while. I had one. So this is going to sound really bad. Right before, or back before I worked for Games Workshop, I created this dark red and tan coloured Space Marine chapter, right? Because there was this video game, and you're all thinking it's Dawn of War, but it's not Dawn of War. It was Space Hulk Fury of the Blood Angels, which was the Space Hulk port to the original PlayStation. And in one of the cutscenes, you see a stained glass window with what looks like, it's not a blood angel because it's not got any of the iconography, but it has a blood with a blood drop on it. Oh, sorry, a raven with a blood drop on it. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna make a chapter that matches that. And I made this chapter. I made like 2 tactical squads of the Marines. And then Dawn of War's trailer came out like 2 weeks after I'd finished them, and I was just like, this is awful. But no, it's mostly just legitimate stuff. Legitimate stuff, that's so up my own arse. No, I did this guy a while back, who is a Black Consul, who's a lesser known 3rd or 4th founding chapter, I believe. Just because I wanted to have a go at painting something a bit different. It was about a bit of a palette cleanser, and I'm quite proud of the face on this one. But I wanted to get away from my normal style of painting, so it's a bit more of a what's called a painterly style, which is why you can see sort of like the highlights on the belly area. But I wouldn't ever really go for a whole thing. But yeah, my own chapter, no, not really. No, I quite like the official schemes of things are always my favourite because it's replicating a scheme that's already there. I mean, the closest thing to that recently is, covered in dust, is I was painting an armature many, many moons ago, and I just came up with this scheme as is. And it was all painted with pointillism, so it was just loads and loads of dots. And I never finished it. I probably should. I don't even know where the chainsaw arm is. And I've got another one to build, so yeah. I'm sure that'll get done eventually. But what I do like doing is taking official colour schemes and messing with them. So like my Heresy Blood Angels, for example, are in black because they're all wearing Death Company colours. And my Salamanders are in the Tempest Gallery scheme. They're nearly finished as well. But no, I don't think I've got anything else. Black Templars. No, I really don't. Wow, I kind of... That sucks. Maybe I should do that. Ooh, where did we get to? I've always been a fan of the Firehawk, Star Phantoms, Exorcist. Yeah, I also really like the Star Phantoms, but I don't think I could ever paint that kind of off-white. And I think the the decals are a really important part of that scheme, and they're quite hard to get your hands on. But yeah, no, I'd like to do most of the Bad Ab War chapters, I think. Finally weekend, doing so great. Pretty cold on here. 10 degrees. Oof, is that 10 degrees in normal currency or in freedom degrees? Because either way, that's either really, really cold or just kind of cold. Yeah, Relic stole my tractor. They absolutely did. I'm going to sue. It's the only way forward. I used to do Relictors, which were a chapter introduced through White Dwarf, who actually did look surprisingly an awful lot like this chapter. They were a White Dwarf codex, which they used to do as a thing, and yeah, it was basically they were Space Marines who used Chaos weapons against Chaos, and they had a bunch of special weapons that were really good at killing demons. They had a power sword that was like 15 points, and it was a power sword for everything except demons, which it killed on a 2+ every single time. I was like, yeah, I'm taking the Blade of Pharaon every single time. I'm just going like, and it was any demon, no saves allowed. It killed them instantly on a 2+. I'm like, oh, you want to charge a Bloodthirster with that guy? Yeah, I really do. But then the Grey Knights wiped them out because, no fun allowed. Finish that Armiger. I will try to finish the Armiger. I need to find the arm for the Armiger. One thing about the Armigers that really bugs me is that they're fixed loadouts, and it makes sense to make them have interesting loadouts. Let me take single auto cannon and the chainsword. Let me take 2 thermal lances, that sort of thing. They should be, really customizable. It's a bit dumb that they're so locked down. It's the same as knights, like knights, titans, all that sort of thing. The new knight Atropos or whatever it is. Why can't I take 2 lances? Let me take a sword and a shield, or the Vulcan Megabolt or whatever it is, and a shield. Let me take the Flamer and the lance. That'd be cool. The Flamer and the lance. It's the Knight Dragoon or something. I think it's probably because I miss the old vehicle design rules where they're like, oh, you can buy a vehicle, like small, medium, large. Now buy upgrades for it and make some weird shit. Which is where you came up with stuff like there was a Land Raider variant, which it was this style of Land Raider. It was the Mars Land Raider or the Phobos Land Raider, whatever you call it. But instead of having the assault ramp, it had the Dozer Blade and Demolisher Cannon from a Vindicator. That's wild. Why can't I have one of those? Brian, no, the Mineral Spirit spill was fantastic. It was all sort of here. It cleaned up nicely. It's actually, cleaned a lot of the dirt and paint off the desk. I was really impressed with that. Decals come in the Aeronautica Marine kit for the Star Phantom. Yes, they also are made by a company called War something or other. No, not War Table. They're recasters. I can't remember, but they also make Mantis Warriors and Howling Griffin ones. I'm sure someone will know who I'm talking about. I think they're US based. But they're pretty cool. 10 degrees in normal degrees. Oh, good. That's alright. So, anyone working on any interesting projects at the moment? Anything I should be insanely jealous about? Anyone's mum bought them a Thunderhawk? There are many problems with every 40k army out there. Yes, I agree. Yeah, the lack of customization in a lot of things is really starting to bug me. It's why I prefer 30k to 40k. I looked at... I wanted to put together a Black Templar's Phobos armor. I thought I'm going to do I'll do a Primaris army. I'll get it finished, and then I'll probably just sell it. You know, maybe I'll raffle it off or something like that. And it's like, okay, Phobos Captain or Phobos Lieutenant. I'm like, yeah, let's start with that. We'll give him a sword and we'll give him some stuff. And it's like, no, he gets a bolter and a knife. What do you mean he gets a bolter and a knife? He's a Black Templar. Let me give him something cool. No, he has no options. Okay, well that kind of sucks. And this is part of the problem. Like, Games Workshop's oversimplification of this of the game is why you've now got like 900 entries in the codex. You know, Space Marine Lieutenant, 1 entry. The Lieutenant can take the following things: this armor, this armor, this armor, this armor, this armor. If they take this armor, they unlock this equipment but lose access to this equipment. You know, it's a game that, yeah, okay, maybe it's marketed to kids, but it's not marketed to kids with like oxygen deprivation at birth. Most 12-year-olds can figure out a list that says, hey, if you take Terminator armor, you can take a Stormbolter, but you can't take a jump pack. Oh, keep turning out here. Yes, I'm thinking of doing World Eaters. It won't be soon, but yes, I want to do some World Eaters to sit against my Salamanders and my other Shattered Legions. As I said to Sue, I can't remember, my memory is so bad. Dreadwing, maybe? I said to him earlier, I like to make my armies in pairs, so people fighting each other. So my Imperial Fists are fighting my Sons of Horus, my Shattered Legions are fighting World Eaters, the Nova Marines are fighting Alpha Legion, Night Lords are fighting the Blood Angels, that sort of thing. And my White Scars were fighting Empress Children. But I haven't done either of those for a very long time. Should I strip and repaint my White Scars? Yes. Getting a metal model for Battletech. Oh, nice. I've got the Battletech starter set behind me. I haven't opened it. I picked it up from, I think, Salute this year, which would have been April-ish time. Because it was really, really cheap, and Trippy constantly going on about Battletech made me interested. But I will do a review of that at some point, just the models. I don't know if I'll ever learn to play the game. Unless I can convince someone to play it with me. Hint, hint. You know who you are. Don't strip my White Scars. Okay. Thank you very much, Internet Man. Blue or red shoulders? I like blue on my World Eaters. I think the red... I don't know. I like to keep it separate from the post-heresy stuff. I think that the blue's so iconic as being heresy that I think it's more important. I know that's really silly, but, you know. I mean, the red's cool. I like a red World Eater. The idea of this, like, hulking crimson behemoth that's going to charge into your lines and hack you to pieces is cool, but the, you know, absolutely gore-caked white and blue that you can just see under it. There's that art piece where Angron's really fat and chunky, and next to him he's got this really angry-looking Ariana Grande World Eater. I really like that, and I will probably be using that as my inspiration for doing World Eaters. Nothing to do with the fact that I like Ariana Grande or anything. Two custom chapters, you fight against each other because one of them is a renegade chapter. Well, that's the best way of doing it, because you can make all the fluff then, and no one can tell you've done it wrong. I will still tell you you're doing it wrong, but no one can really get away with it. Plus, you know, you can make some really cool stories there, and that's what I do with my models. Posing my models, painting my models, every single model is a character to me and tells a story. So, you know, I don't just have like a wall of bolter guys. Each pose is a moment in history for these people. You know, is this guy? Why is this guy throwing a melter bomb? Who's he throwing it at? That sort of thing. Live Bando reaction. Lord Castellan, there's been a second Blackstar Fortress. Or Blackstone Fortress. Yeah, my White Scars are a really old army now. They were my first, like, heresy, modern heresy army. And I don't know, I don't know if they really hold up. Oh well, it's not like I can't afford to replace the parts inside there. Yeah, 60 quid for a land speeder or 30 for Mr. Lee. It's pretty obvious where I'm going to go. I got a wonderful message on my Instagram from a guy who just found me. He was like, "Oh, you like Warhammer and you hate communists. I'm sticking around." I was like, "Cool, works for me, pal." I'm glad there's a Venn diagram that suits me somewhere. Oh, Trippy, let's not start on your black shields. We need you to not be depressed this evening. They'll come. They'll be back. Don't worry. Black shields are coming eventually. Oh, painting black. So close to yellow. Giving myself a stomach ulcer. And one of the best things about the way I paint, because I've got a very singular style of doing things. Everything gets chipped, everything gets weathered, everything gets washed with oils. If I do absolutely cock up this shoulder pad, out comes the brown and in go the chips. It's fine. Excellent. Did you hear about that absolutely wild Bill Gates thing that apparently Bill Gates wants to combat climate change by blocking out the sun? I'm pretty sure Mr. Burns tried that already. Let's not let Bill Gates do it. Because frankly, I remember Windows 98 and he can't even get a printer to work properly. I'm not trusting him with the sun. How are we doing? Is that looking okay, guys? He's got a bit of fluff on his chin, but I'll get that out before I do his face. That's all of them. Finally found a use for that Forge World Power Fist. And head from one of the Stormcast, I think. Yeah. Stormcast that are in the new starter set that apparently is everywhere. I saw a Reddit post that was talking about how that every game shop has copies of Dominion or whatever it is, and they're just everywhere. Black versus Yellow should try painting Legio. Furians, not my brightest. Yeah, no, they are. They're a really good looking Titan Legion. But boy, would that be awkward. This live stream brought to you by heart palpitations and far too much sugar. Thank you, Matthew. Sure you guys saw this before, but I've also primed my Forge Lord for my Iron Hands. Lieutenant Dan here, he got new legs. That's quite. I'm glad that came out how I wanted it to. So I've got him to do, and I've also got the last of my Gorgon Terminators to get painted. I will be adding some Morlock Terminators, but I'm going to use the Leviathan Terminators for those because they're huge. But yeah, if you have not seen them before, here's my Iron Hand scheme. This is my new Iron Hand scheme, and this was my old Iron Hand scheme, which was a little bit too much like Dark Angels. So yeah, I've had to paint over a lot of decals to repaint these guys. And don't worry, for those of you who don't like power armor, I do paint other stuff as well. Just not very often. Although I haven't nearly finished this guy. Haven't showed this around much yet. The second Eldar model I finished. So it's him and a Wraith Knight. So not exactly a balanced army, but got to get there eventually. And I'm trying a new basing scheme for my Sons of Horus. I think it's a bit brighter, not as red as the other one. Doesn't kind of clash or match the chips as much. So that's my librarian. Unlike the £30 or whatever he is, £25 Forge World version. So far so good. You're going to keep that one dude bald or give him a 5 o'clock shadow of a cut? Probably. You can use... Oh, let's go that way. This stuff. Vallejo's Glazed Medium is fantastic for getting... well, you actually be able to see it on this guy. Getting sort of a 5 o'clock shadow or stubble. That's literally just grey paint mixed with Glazed Medium and water. And you just sort of, you know, do a couple of thin coats over where you've painted the skin like normal. But do some research and figure out where it actually goes, because you'd be surprised. You will assume and make mistakes. Brian, yes, blue sets them apart from 40k World Eaters. It does. I do like 40k World Eaters. I was very worried that we were going to get that first piece of artwork that came out, which with all the little gold sort of like spiky bits. I thought we were going to get those horrible Age of Sigmar corn guys. But luckily we didn't. We got some actually relatively decent, models. I need to find the red paint now. There it is. Just get both of them. Look at me putting my stuff away before I actually start playing with it. That doesn't normally happen, trust me. So yeah, these paints from TT Combat, they're about the same price as Vallejo, maybe a little bit more expensive. One of the good things about them is they're a safety lid, so you can't accidentally knock them open. And the nozzle's really thin, which is kind of cool. I've not had any blockages so far. But I don't want to do too much about these. A full review of them will go up eventually. I'm maybe halfway through that. I'm just trying to get these guys finished so I can get to the end of it. So yeah, I'll probably do that guy, give him some, interesting facial hair or skin tone or something. Do you want to focus? Do you want to be fun? There we go. Who's a good boy? Stupid bloody computer. So one little tip I've actually got for painting skin is start with a base coat of whatever you're going to be using for the hair. It sounds really wild, but it helps match the underlying tone of the skin. And then mix whatever skin tone you're going to use in with that paint, basically, and work up from there. It will come across as more believable and more natural looking, from my experience, of course. Also, try wet blending. Wet blending is really great fun. You can do some really good skin tones by just mixing two paints together. You like slap it on and then dot a lighter paint on and then just start brushing it around. Love your Sons of Horus. What are you working on for those guys? Well, my Sons of Horus have got a fair few bits being added to them. I have pretty much finished the Land Raider. Get red paint everywhere. Which is this guy. Which is some 3D printed parts and just a classic Land Raider. If I do a nice jeweled thing into the eye. Not quite a Mark IIB, but I left the shroud off of those to make it look a bit more interesting. Some spikes from Zinj Industries at the bottom. And then just some decals. So that guy's pretty much finished. And then I have the last member of my command squad, because I didn't realise I needed a standard bearer in there. I completely misread it. So I'm sure you've seen the command squad I've got with chain axes and big shields, so this is just another guy for that. Just made from more Chaos Space Marine bits. I know we mentioned earlier about, just using Chaos Space Marine bits for your Sons of Horus as not being good, but it can work, especially for more veteran troops. I have a 5-man heavy weapons squad for missile launchers, all Mark IV boys. Oh, knocking things over. Things are all falling apart. Help! I have a squad of veterans who are all based on the old artwork from the Collected Visions books. So they've got the spiky helmets, they've got the red gloves, and they're armed with all sorts of weird and wonderful weapons. Basically, I've just raided my bits box for combi weapons and stuff. This is one of my favourites. I think this guy just kind of sums up the Sons of Horus aesthetic. That kind of very techno-barbarian, very brutal, look about him. The Raptor kit can actually be a source of some really good power fists, if you don't mind tidying them up a bit. And guy with some lightning claws. What else are they getting? Oh, they're getting the sorcerer, obviously, and oh, there he is, an Armistice with a missile launcher, who I'm growing to dislike more and more each time I look at him. I don't know, I think it's Fafnir Rand's body, I just don't like it. Other than that, they've also got a Breacher squad, but I am one man down. I was just doing a coat of Cabalite green on these guys, and I realised I only had 9 of them, and I can't find the 10th one anywhere. So until I find him, I'm not finishing this squad off. But you got a sergeant with a Sons of Horus upgrade, chest piece, and a Iron Hands Mark III Howard. So that's what my Sons of Horus are getting for the moment. How many heresy armies do I have? Oh, Dreadwing, you ask the most dangerous questions. I have my... It depends what you mean by an army. in a usable state, I have my Thousand Sons, my Sons of Horus, and Imperial Fists, and Raven Guard. I would say those are the only ones that are in a usable state. I.e., I've got more than enough points to put an army together, a decent-sized army. But I've also got White Scars, 2 Ultramarines armies, started an Emperor's Children army, Salamanders, Iron Hands, Militia. Let's not forget the Militia. I just need to get myself some infantry. I'm still not entirely sure if I'm going to do Krieg or get those Helghast 3D printed models. By the way, these Vanquisher upgrades from Beyond the Tabletop are really nice. I really like these. I don't know if I can make another one because I haven't got the spare parts from a Baneblade kit to use. So yeah, no more Lehman Russes for me. So in total, just depending how you count it. Oh, and Blood Angels. I always forget the Blood Angels. Let's get some Blood Angels and show them off. I'll do the HQ characters. This is my Praetor for my Blood Angels. He's based off of just a Mark 6 Marine with Fafnir Rand's head with his luscious golden locks sculpted on. Fafnir Rand's wonderful sword. And some metal Taruges, some knives from Necromunda kits. So that's the Praetor. A Chaplain with a big old axe. And a Moritat, who is the only one in the entire group who doesn't believe it's a suicide mission and it is not consigned himself to death. So that's why he's still wearing his red armour. Everybody else is like, oh, we're going to die on this planet. And he's just like, not me. You guys can die here. And that army is currently 2 tactical squads of 10 men each, and a 7-man veteran squad with lightning claws, and a sergeant with a weird hand flamer. It's a bit 40k-ish with some of the parts. I'm not a fan of these upgrades. They're a bit too cartoonish for my liking. But the rest of the guys are, pretty heresy-ish. They're just dusty. Yeah, red checkers are always fun. I like doing checks on a lot of my models. Checkers are hard to do, but very rewarding. Here's another one with some checks on it. It's another Iron Hand model. This was the Iron Hand test mini. It definitely looks a bit too Dark Angels. And that is a Logi-K iron something or other body. So it's a printed body, printed bolter, but the rest of the parts are all plastic. I think that's yeah. Night Lord's really the only other ones. I'm sure you guys have seen this as well. My Night Lord's Mortificator that I've not finished. This claw took more time than is absolutely reasonable to do. I did it 3 times and realised I put the claws in the wrong way round, so it was forward at the top. I did that 3 times. I mean, I know I'm stupid, I know I'm legally retarded, but I'm also physically retarded. I'm assuming you mean this tank. This is a Predator for my Imperial Fists. And unlike most Predators, he doesn't work for the BBC. The Imperial Fists can take a assault cannon Predator. And, well, the Bile Predator is an assault cannon Predator, so it made sense to just get the kit and paint it yellow. I've used some bits from the old Black Templars upgrade kit, which if anyone can find me one or a recaster of one, I will love you long time. Because that is one of the greatest kits that's ever existed. So yeah, it's just a Bile Predator. I found one at, I think it was Salute, the event. And there was a charity booth for, I think it was the British Heart Foundation. And basically they just had a bunch of stuff and you paid what you wanted for it. Or you just, made them, asked them what they wanted, sort of, it was not like fixed prices. And I think I got it for like £25-30. It was not a bad deal at all. Here's a model that was in my first militia army. Back in first edition, I had an idea of doing a really weird ragtag militia army that was made up of the victims of an alien race who experimented on, interbred with all sorts of stuff to a bunch of human prisoners, and then they escaped. So there was, every model was weird and wonderful like this, but never really got anywhere with it. I don't even know where half of them are anymore. But it used a lot of Gene Stealer Colts bits. As the answer is always too many. It's never too many until I have got at least double of every single one of the legions, alright? I'm going to have 36 armies by the time I'm finished. Actually, that's not true because I'm planning a third Ultramarines army. I am planning a second Imperial Fist army as well. I want to do an Air Assault Black Templars force that is literally just Sigismund Templars flying around outside the palace in Storm Eagles, attacking targets of opportunity. And it's a 3,000 point army, and it has 7 Storm Eagles. So until they come out in plastic, it's not happening. Have you ever considered doing Word Bearers? Yes, I have considered doing Word Bearers, and the plan for Word Bearers, I put up a what do you call it? A poll to see what my next next project should be, my next big army, and it was Word Bearers as like heavy Galvorback. So it's going to be a Fury of the Ancients list, and it's a load of Galvorback and a load of possessed Contemptor Dreadnoughts, basically. And then the Contemptor Dreadnought, Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought that leads them is going to be made from the Demon Prince. That's the plan. So that was what I want to do for that army. So I will be doing a test model. That was actually what this guy was for. But I don't have any idea how I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to go for a plain scheme or if I'm going to go for a really metallic scheme. It's all up in the air. I'm not entirely sure yet. I will figure it out eventually. Here's another little model show off. Nothing to do with Warhammer. This is made by Spellcrow, and it was a little limited edition goblin they sold. Cost me a £5. How great is that? Look at his little face. I need to finish that at some point. Really proud of the base on that as well. Comes with these tiny little mushrooms. Looking at the rate of vehicles they release, Storm Eagles is bound to come in plastic 2 months' time. Better prepare. I would not be surprised if we don't get Storm Eagles in the next 2 years. It will be 2 kits with... It will be like the Land Raiders. It will be 2 kits that have shared sprues, basically. I think they will probably recut the bits that are needed from the 40k flyer that I can never remember, the Storm Pigeon or whatever it is, and they'll recut it into a new kit so that you don't have all that leftover stuff. But yeah, I think that will be... I think flyers will happen, but I don't think it's going to be for a while. There were a bunch of leaks recently on the Crusade and Heresy Discord server, and it was from a former GW sculptor who still kept in touch with a lot of the guys, and he was giving out all sorts of juicy info on upcoming releases that he's been told about. So whether or not they're true, I don't know, but yeah, Storm Eagles weren't even on the horizon. But the interesting bit was the fact that the reason we haven't got Praetors for half the legions is because the guys doing it just don't have any passion for those legions, so they don't know how to do them justice. Which is sad and ironic. You'd think you'd be able to find someone who was passionate about salamanders. Or world eaters. Well, it can't be hard. Come on. Yeah. Anyway, those sorts of things you've always got to take with a grain of salt, because you don't know if they're true or if it's just someone getting their Rachmaninoffs. Yes, the Storm Goal. You're doing your word bearers in the grey scheme. I like that. That's cool. Back in 4th edition or so, that was how a lot of people did theirs. Because the fluff didn't tell us when the shift over to red happened, but it did give us the grey scheme as a pre-heresy scheme, so a lot of people just went with that. Which is cool. I can't remember... Ooh, that was close. I've hidden all their cod pieces and I can't tell which side of his dick's red. Oh well. I'll leave it. Printing money to starving buyers. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so I mean, I've got a friend who works at Games Workshop in the sort of office side of things, not in the factory or the design side of things, and they have told me many times that it's the production capacity that dictates a lot of decision making. They told me that because we were discussing the idea of it was the Sekhmet Terminators. I said, well, not Sekhmet, whatever the Thousand Suns 30k Terminators called. I'm like, why don't you sell them as just an upgrade kit? Don't bundle them in with the plastic kit, so people can buy them and get their own plastic kits, or they may already have them from the Betrayal at Calth or whatever. And they were very much like, we'd love to, but then we can't even keep them in stock at the moment anyway. It would just be, oh, I've made another set of kits and they're out the door instantly, which is a good problem to have in the short term. In the long term, no one looks at it and goes, wow, I can't believe these kits are so popular. They're never in stock. No, they just get animosity. They just go, oh great, I can't get my hands on this kit because it's always out of stock. Why is there spiderweb on this model? You people have been warned, you 8-legged weirdos, stay the hell away from me. I'm calling the Tyrannic War veterans. So yeah, production capacity is the biggest issue that Games Workshop's facing. Mostly because of mismanagement. They honestly, the middle management guys are so corrupt and inept, basically. When I went for my interview, I sat down and I was like, I'll be honest, I don't know how to play the game very well. I basically just paint and I build and I love the hobby, but I'm more of a builder and a painter than anything. And the managers looked at me like the hyenas in The Lion King. And my manager at the time just went, don't care, shut up, show us toys. And I was like, okay. Because that was the interview process, basically. You went into a Games Workshop store, and you did your interview, which was effectively just like, do you like Warhammer? Yes. Show us the models you've painted. And that was it. That was effectively the entire interview process I went through. Which was great, you know. I wish more job interviews were that easy. The downside was when I left, they forgot to pay me. But I got that sorted eventually. Yeah, can't, like, if you guys, like, we all rag on Games Workshop. I cannot shout from the rooftops loud enough my praises for the back end office staff, for like staff support. They were great. Any problems I had, they got solved really quickly by those girls. But yeah, my manager was a bit of a pervert. How long did I work? A little under a year. I did it just before I went off to university, so it was just some time to make some extra money, that sort of thing. But it was good fun. Yeah, I don't like being a pushy salesman. Ironically, I'm actually really good at sales. I made a lot of money at a previous job which had like sales commission involved, but it doesn't mean I like doing it. Although the interesting part was always trying to tell mum and dad about. So little Timmy's got interested in these pink and black space marines. Oh, who do they work for? Don't say the magic like meth and rape goat. It's like rock and roll, loud noises, excess, yay. There's a reason they've tried to kill off Slanesh in Age of Sigmar. But yeah, I went off to university afterwards, studied games design, made some really good friends. My current housemate is one of those guys. Oops. Oh no, I've made a huge mistake. I don't know if you can see I've just got red all over the top of this. A little bit of water and a bit of friction gets rid of that. Wonderful. If I'm just talking and this shit's all out of focus, I do apologise. Yeah. It's trying to figure out where I need to keep things held so that they're in focus. And I've only got one set of eyes, so I can only look where I'm actually painting. I should hire myself a small Filipino boy to watch the screen for me. I don't know why I'd be a Filipino boy. Probably because they're cheap. Get someone off Fiverr. I have actually been thinking of getting an intro made on like Fiverr or something like that. Heavy intercessors. Blech. Yeah, so the piece of advice I can give you there is gloss your models when you've finished painting them yellow. Give a nice heavy coat of gloss varnish, and then if you make any mistakes, just like I did there, a little bit of water and a bit of friction from the brush, and you can basically just wipe the paint away. Yeah, I really don't like heavy intercessors. The whole aesthetic for a lot of those special weapons teams for the Primaris are really just not something I like at all. Like if Primaris were literally just, here's the tactical squad, they've got a flamer and a heavy bolter or a missile launcher, I wouldn't have as much problem. There you go. We've just done it again on his elbow. Bit of water. And that's it. I'll just make sure it's all washed away. But you do want that gloss varnish there, because if you do it without it, you'll just wear the paint away really quickly. And then make a mistake like I've just done, which is not get rid of the water. So that's going to flood the rest of the model. Oh well. Sure, it'll be fine. So yeah, you know, it's an interesting thing to do, working for Games Workshop. It's definitely something I recommend people try if you're in the hobby. For the singular reason of the 50% discount. Get in there, haul that discount, and get out a month later. I made the mistake of doing that. My last day was the release date for the Vampire Counts army, when things like the Corpse Cart and the Blood Knights came out, and I bought maybe 60% of the entire range. I spent the entire month's paycheck. Yeah, and that's with the discount. It was even my boss was disgusted. And then I played one game. I played a single game of Fantasy, and then I stopped playing it. And ironically, I've actually still got him. But all stripped and being repainted in that wonderful orangey copper of my Thousand Suns. I am looking forward to the old world. I know a lot of people aren't, but I like the setting. I like the setting as much as I like the Heresy. And I will... It depends on how they release the models. I'm hoping we basically... Oh no, I did care for Fantasy. I love the setting. The game was so hard to get into. It was things like building such huge amounts of models was very difficult, because I'm not very good with a brush. Like, getting a smooth coat with a brush is really difficult for me, would make me very disheartened, which then with my mutism would cause me to get really angry, and I just couldn't deal with it. So I kind of avoided doing it. That's why I like painting Space Marines, because I could just dry brush them and then we were good to go. But now that I have an airbrush, I would crush any army. So yeah, I'm thinking it all depends on how they do the release. If they just dump everything out and go, yeah, here's everything that you're getting all in one go, that's great. Love that. If they drip feed us models that came out 20 years ago, I'm going to be furious. And I will go straight to China. Actually, I'll probably go to China anyway. I might do Bretonnians, but I'm probably more likely to lean towards doing High Elves, because I love me some High Elves. The artwork done by Karl Kopinski in one of the codexes or army books was just brilliant, where the elves were really thin and tall in plate armour. Was so just perfect. I loved it. Yeah, it is. But that's kind of good that, you know, if it's set earlier in the timeline, we're not getting a regurgitation of what we've already seen. Because if they put it basically at Gathering Storm again, we know where it's going to go. There's no room for our own stories. Whereas if it's a bit earlier, we've got new characters, new stories to tell. You know, new things are at risk. No one who's alive then is going to be alive during the Gathering Storm, more or less. So that's not really any impact on us anymore. Yeah, we know the world is going to end, but we you know, long dead and cold in the ground for that. Yeah, so we know that we've got two Bretonnian models. There's been the knight on foot that we've seen, and I think he might have had one on horseback. I think they did. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. But there's also been the leaked Bretonnian Lord on Pegasus. So we know we've got a couple for new models for the Bretonnians. We've got one confirmed new model for the Tomb Kings. So yeah, again, I hope we're getting some more of those. But the problem is that if we just get 4 new models, what are they going to do? You can't just give us those 4 models. Where are our troops? Where are our, our rare, our special units, that sort of thing. Again, I also hope they kind of keep the Warhammer Fantasy army building. So I don't know. A lot of it was done on percentages. So you had common, special, and rare, and then heroes. If I can remember correctly, it's been a long time. 25 or 50% of your army had to be common. 25% had to be special, and then I think it was like 10% was rare, and then 15% was HQ or something like that. But it balanced out because the bigger your army got, the more of certain things you could have, which was great. But I had an undead army, and it involved a lot of zombies. Which was really funny when my vampire died in turn 1, and I had to take crumble tests for the entire game, and the zombies pass a crumble test only on a double 1. If they fail the crumble test, the entire unit dies. I managed to get 3 units of zombies to survive until turn 5. My opponent was furious. And each one was a 30-man unit of zombies, so they just couldn't be killed. Yeah, lots of people trying desperately to get in there and kill them, and they just couldn't do it. Loved it. It's great fun. Oh, let's show this guy off. I don't know if I've shown this guy off as he is. Got my Tech Marine for my salamanders. But look, I've done a World Eater. Look, Mum, I did a World Eater. He's not painted yet, but he's in there. He's visited the dentist. Again, I couldn't figure out my scheme for these guys, which I'd done already. So I tried to match it. It didn't really work. They're just different, different units, different paint, all the same Legion. But so he's got the body is from a Medusan Immortal, the arms are from the Pravian, Mark 6 pads, Mark 6 pack, and then the servo arm is from Zinj Industries. The weird thing about this is the leg. The robotic leg is so far forward. It has this weird, almost reverse joint look to it. I thought it was a miscast when I first looked at it, but no, that's actually how it's been sculpted. It's really weird. I think we'll get important named characters. We'll just get new important named characters. Like before, what is it, 3rd edition fantasy? We didn't know who Leon Kerr was at all. There was no Rapance de Leon. Lord Croak wasn't a thing. They can add them in whenever they want. And also, yeah, your army will be led by a normal guy. That was one thing I really did like about fantasy was you could have your lord. You had special characters, lords, and heroes. So someone like this is Vlad von Carstein. He's a named character, so you can take him, but then you can't take other characters. But then you could take a vampire lord who's not as powerful as Vlad, but he's still very powerful. But his points cost reflected it. Or you could take just, a white king or, a lesser vampire who's a hero. But the other thing is you could do is you could take a lord and 2 heroes or something with it. I know that it's a game and we're all supposed to play with like the really big cool stuff, but I like the idea of it being middle or being a bit, average, normal. It's, not everything has to be, this guy doesn't have to be some absolute Chad who's, leader of the free world and, the Blade of the West and all this stuff. He could just be Gary, who is, a second lieutenant who's in a bad position. He's leading the force he's got. That sort of thing. Normal characters, normal people, more interesting, more depth, that sort of thing. I've always liked the sort of more medium and interesting kind of stuff. Not all special forces. Sometimes it's so nice to see just like the regular army. That makes sense. Oh, here's another vampire I can show you. You may have seen this on Instagram as well, but not by me. This was a... Get rid of the dust. I wanted to try out using contrast paints, and it's not very clear, but again, I've used a lot of pointillism on there to do the texture on the... Get some light in there. Get the texture on there for the skin. Lots of really thin layers on there. And that's Doomfire Magenta actually mixed with a lot of flesh tones, and it comes out really nicely. I decided to pick up a couple of AOS models just to paint them as standalones, and I've had some great fun. I did this and I did the Skaven Assassin, both of which I really enjoyed. Much prefer taking non-characters in work. Yeah, exactly. Make your own stories, that's it. So yeah, I don't know what else I can do. It's been an hour. I might just call it there, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully I'm going to try and get one of these done once a week. That'd be really nice. Your questions have been great. I love you guys. If you're on the Discord, I really appreciate you coming down here and sharing your support. It gets kind of tiring bullying the Scarlet Midget on my own sometimes. So you guys, you really make it easy. Alright, my name is Bando. This has been Messy with Bando, I guess. Catch you guys.